Of all the words in the English language, none is more frightening than cancer. And of the hundreds of different types of cancer, none is more lethal than brain cancer. Last year, 185,000 people were diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. That number is increasing, and scientists are trying to figure out why. Is it due to environmental factors or genetics? Nobody knows. But what we do know is that in its most dangerous form, brain cancer usually kills everyone who has it within 6 to 12 months. Recently, a team of doctors at the Duke University Brain Tumor Center, driven by world-renowned oncologist Henry Friedman, has made significant advances in the treatment of the disease. But while Dr. Friedman works towards a cure, he's in a pitched battle with many of his colleagues because he feels most of them have given up on brain cancer patients and written them off.
I think most people in the country, most physicians, believe that patients with many kinds of brain tumors are so hopeless as to offer them nothing. We just go home, put your affairs in order, pick a plot, figure out your gravestone and move on.
What you're saying is that most doctors with this diagnosis write their patients off.
On day one. They look at the person, they don't see a patient, they see a corpse.
Talk to any of Dr. Henry Friedman's 2,000 brain cancer patients, and most, if not all of them, will tell you that they were given a death sentence by the doctors who first treated them. 36-year-old David Bailey got the dire news after he was rushed to a Virginia hospital when he suffered a sudden seizure.
And I woke up 4 days later in the hospital, and they said, you had a tumor, we took it out. That's the good news. The bad news is this is cancer, it's grade 4, you've got 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Almost 5 years.
17-year-old Taylor Black was also given 6 months to live, and that was a year and a half ago, soon after surgeons near her home in Florida removed a baseball-sized tumor from her brain.
I had a very pessimistic oncologist that came and visited me right after my first surgery, and this man was very dark about the whole situation. Like, he came in and was pretty much telling me that I was going to die, and soon.
46-year-old John Orman was told by an oncologist in New York City 2.5 years ago that there was nothing he could do. His tumor was too big to remove.
And he recommended that I not do anything, that I just have MRIs every couple months.
If you hadn't done something, if you had stayed there,
I would have died.
No doubt about it.
3 months, yeah.
So what's new?
After leaving their original doctors, John Orman, Taylor Black, and David Bailey came to the Duke University Brain Tumor Center in Durham, North Carolina, where we have followed them for the past year, and where Dr. Henry Friedman promised them not only that he could help them, but that he would try to cure them.
Thank you, man. The majority of the patients that I see, when we sit down with them and we give them the motto that we stand by, which is at Duke there is hope, you can see almost a swelling within it as the fight in them begins to resume, because they've been told before that it's absolutely unequivocally hopeless. And without hope, it just ends before it begins.
How do you remain so optimistic in the face of what is one of the most deadly cancers we have?
I'm seeing long-term survivors. I'm seeing patients who other people wrote off and came to us and are out there long enough now, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 years for one of our patients, to be a walking example that they're not dead on delivery. And in fact, we've got some patients who make a point of going back to their physician saying, I'm still here.
For more than a decade, Henry Friedman has been on a mission to cure brain cancer, and his efforts are starting to pay off. In the worst type of brain tumor that kills virtually everyone within a year, Dr. Friedman says about 15% of his patients are still alive, many of them cancer-free between 3 and as many as 5 years after they were diagnosed. And in less deadly forms of brain cancer, his results are nearly twice as good. In the field of brain cancer, that's considered nothing short of remarkable.
I owe you my life. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure we did.
You did.
Thank
really.
you.
While Dr. Friedman helps run one of the country's most established brain cancer programs, there is nothing establishment about him. This 50-year-old former New Yorker prefers blue jeans and sneakers to a lab coat and tie, and insists that everyone call him Henry.
How are you?
He prefers hugs instead of handshakes.
Hi.
and treats his patients as if they were part of his own family.
You want another hug? You treat them as if it's your mom and you want your mom treated. If you treat everybody in that model, you treat everybody pretty well.
Dr. Friedman gives patients more than surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, the standard treatments for brain cancer. He works with a team of 150 doctors, researchers, and scientists at Duke who are developing the newest experimental cancer drugs. And as soon as those drugs show any sign at all of promise in the laboratory, Dr. Friedman rushes them immediately to his patients, prompting some colleagues to call him a cowboy.
To me, I think being a cowboy is terrific. If a cowboy means that I'm not willing to accept the conventional approaches that give you mediocre outcomes and I want to do something newer, I'm using a scientific foundation to do it, I'm a cowboy.
The centerpiece of Dr. Friedman's treatment is called targeted therapy, genetically engineered drugs that seek out and destroy specific cancer cells while leaving the healthy cells around them intact. The treatment burst into the headlines this year and was hailed as the newest ammunition in the war against cancer, a possible cure for cancer, after it was reported that it had eradicated a type of leukemia in large numbers of patients. At Duke, Henry Friedman is hopeful that a new targeted treatment called monoclonal antibody therapy will be able to do the same thing for brain cancer patients. The treatment was developed by renowned Duke scientist Dr. Darrell Bigner.
Why is it causing so much excitement?
The monoclonal antibodies are proteins that will bind to those specific molecules in the cancer that makes it grow. So we use that as a targeting tool, and then we attach a bomb or a payload to it.
The bomb or payload that Dr. Bigner uses is actually radioactive iodine. It is attached under a microscope to the monoclonal antibody, which serves as the guidance system, sending this radioactive smart bomb directly to the tumor to destroy it.
So it lets us attack just the tumor cells and avoid the normal brain.
The treatment has been used so far on 370 patients who have the deadliest type of brain tumor known as a glioblastoma. If left untreated, it doubles in size every 21 to 30 days. The early results are promising. Published studies show that patients who have received the monoclonal antibody therapy have lived more than twice as long as those who receive standard therapies. Yet as promising as those results are, most insurance companies won't pay for the therapy because they consider it to be experimental. But Dr. Friedman takes on the insurance industry as aggressively as he battles brain cancer.
No insurance company is going to deny your child appropriate care. It's not going to happen on our watch.
13-year-old Daniel Glancy has a fast-growing brain tumor, and Dr. Friedman believes that experimental therapy is the only chance he has to survive. So Dr. Friedman calls the family's insurance company and threatens them with negative media exposure if they don't give in.
Everybody has to understand what you're saying basically means you won't treat children with cancer on your policies. I think this is something that people who purchase insurance from your group really must be aware of.
We're not going to participate in an argument through the press.
Well, belatedly, I'll tell you that you're already involved with the press as we speak. The question was posed, and I posed it. Who would like to receive the call from Mr. Ed Bradley to discuss this for a forthcoming segment of 60 Minutes? I don't think they liked you because they didn't want to talk to you. Because that night they called back and said it's been approved.
You enjoy this, don't you?
I enjoy helping my patients. I'm not afraid to mix it up with anybody to help my patients. I won't break federal or state laws. I'm not about to commit a crime, but I believe that showing people the right way to do things and the consequences to their business of not doing the right things is very appropriate. Yeah, I enjoy this.
As hard as Dr. Friedman tried to help young Daniel Glancy, the approval from the insurance company came too late. He died before he could get the therapy.
Hey, look who's here.
Henry Friedman goes way beyond the normal doctor-patient relationship. John Orman, like many patients who come to Duke from far away, has been adopted by Dr. Friedman, actually spending many evenings with him and his wife and kids at their home and going with them to Duke basketball games in between treatments.
I was amazed that he allowed me into his life that way. I love Henry. And he's brilliant and fast and crazy. He's like a mad scientist.
Someone told me you called him a used car salesman.
We can't get that on tape.
What about him is like a used car salesman?
You know how used car salesmen want you to buy their car. Well, Henry wants you to do his treatment. And if he figures that he can save your life, he'll do or say just about anything he needs to do to get you to do that.
David Bailey knows that better than anyone else. He was one of Dr. Friedman's first brain cancer patients to get the monoclonal antibody treatment and to have it paid for by insurance. When we first met him, Bailey was the poster boy for the treatment, having survived with a glioblastoma for 4.5 years, longer than just about anyone else in the country. He had been a fast-rising computer software executive when he was told he had brain cancer and 6 months to live. Bailey says of all the types of cancer he could have gotten, brain cancer was by far the scariest.
Because it affects who you are. It affects everything. I mean, if I had cancer in my finger, I could chop it off, and I would still be the same. But when it's affecting your brain, it can be your vision, it can be your motor skills, it can be your ability to understand, it could be your mood, your personality, your language. Nobody really thinks about how much their brain really drives everything. It's the, it's the command center.
The good news for David Bailey is that so far there has been no recurrence of cancer. But malignant brain tumors have a bad track record of returning in an even more aggressive form.
You have the keys? I have the keys.
So every 3 to 6 months, Bailey and all of Henry Friedman's patients must return to Duke for an MRI scan of their brain. On this day, Bailey and his wife Leslie leave their 2 children at her mother's home before making the long drive to Duke for the news that could change their lives in an instant.
I'm nervous,
Can I have a hug?
because I know that these things come back, and when they come back hard and nasty. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle, and I want to be here for my son's graduation, and so whatever it takes.
The MRI scan of David Bailey's brain takes just a few minutes, but he must wait 18 hours for the results. So the Baileys stay overnight at a motel across from the hospital, but neither of them is able to sleep.
Your mind starts spinning, and then it just doesn't stop.
Ready?
Yep.
The following morning, the Baileys get the news from neurosurgeon Alan Friedman, another member of the Duke team. He is not related to Henry Friedman.
Everything looks very good, and the only thing that's a question at all is right here. There's a very small area that is a little thicker than we'd like it to be.
David Bailey's tumor could be growing back.
What we've done is we've scheduled a PET scan for this afternoon to see if this is tumor coming back or if this is an effect of the therapy.
There's a plan either way. Okay.
That means David Bailey will have to wait yet again while he gets the PET scan, a more sophisticated test, which will show precisely whether the spot in his brain is the return of his cancer or if it's what's called necrosis, benign scar tissue caused by the monoclonal antibody treatment. 3 hours later, the results of the PET scan are back.
This is the MR scan that shows the area of abnormality. This is the PET scan that we just did. What it's showing us is that that's necrosis and not tumor that we're seeing in that enhancement.
What it means is that Henry Friedman's treatment is working. After nearly 5 years, David Bailey is still cancer-free.
Oh, and there's you. Thanks.
Who's
Thanks
that
for
guy
hanging in
over
there.
That's great news.
He will have to go through this again in another 6 months.
Thank you, Duke.
But David Bailey is not complaining.
Got a little lease on life right now. And am I happy? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Despite his success with David Bailey, Dr. Henry Friedman's aggressive approach to treating brain cancer has federal health officials concerned. When we come back, we'll tell you why. And we will follow the battle of 46-year-old actor John Orman and 17-year-old Taylor Black, a senior in high school. Both of them have advanced brain cancer. Can Dr. Friedman's treatment save their lives?
I just keep going with this fight with every breath in my body.
The harsh reality about brain tumors is that they mostly attack children and young adults in the prime of their lives, people like Taylor Black. In fact, this year, brain cancer will become the #1 cause of cancer death in people under the age of 20. But Dr. Henry Friedman refuses to give up hope. In addition to the targeted therapy that he says is eradicating brain tumors in some of his patients, Dr. Friedman also uses a highly unorthodox and aggressive combination of drugs in a last-ditch effort to save those who have not responded to any other treatments. Taylor Black, a 17-year-old high school senior from Florida, has a rare and fast-growing brain tumor which was diagnosed 1.5 years ago after she collapsed in the shower.
When I got the results that I had a brain tumor and everything, it just didn't seem real, because you think you're invincible when you're this young. You're like, what could happen to me? What could possibly happen to you? But it is happening to me, so I have to deal with it.
We first met Taylor Black 15 months ago. She had just started being treated by Henry Friedman after leaving her original oncologist, who told her that the cancer was too far advanced and that nothing could be done to save her.
But she was diagnosed. She was told by her doctors that she had only 6 months to live.
Surprise, she's still here. We're going to try to make that continue, because the goal is not just a few months. The goal is cure her, which is still very possible.
He's the ideal doctor for me. He's got a lot of hope.
Dr. Friedman's hope is based on his belief that the only way to attack and kill brain cancer for some patients is to outsmart it by using as many weapons as possible, giving patients up to 12 different drugs, many of which have not been approved by the FDA for brain cancer, but that have been successful with other cancers. Dr. Friedman's treatments place him at odds with nearly everyone else in his field.
I think that physicians believe frequently that that approach is too aggressive, is too gung-ho. It doesn't play by the rules. I just don't abide by that.
The rules that most physicians abide by are to prescribe treatments to patients only after they've been rigorously tested and proven effective in what's called a randomized Phase 3 clinical trial, a controlled experiment in which one group of patients receives the new treatment, another receives standard therapy, and the results are then compared. The process can take up to 5 years to complete.
I know for you,
Dr. Friedman won't conduct those clinical trials because he says it's unethical to give his patients the standard therapies, which he says don't work.
I'm sure you know that there are many doctors who say that you shouldn't give a patient a drug or a treatment unless they're in a government-sponsored clinical trial. What do you say to them?
That's just nonsense. I don't believe that at all. I think that that is going to mean that people are going to have the same mortality for the next block of years, and I'm just not willing to be part of that. Nihilism, just pure and simple.
Why?
Because it makes the assumption that until you have a strong set of data that something increases survival, you can't use that intervention. Well, that's all well and good unless you're a patient in the next 5 years while you're waiting for these trials to be done. What are they going to be offered? What are they going to do?
I think when you take that approach, you're a little bit on a slippery slope.
Dr. Howard Fine runs the brain tumor division of the federal government's National Cancer Institute. He says Henry Friedman's multi-drug assault on brain cancer, while promising, may also be dangerous.
Those drugs are not benign drugs. They're not vitamins. They can cause significant side effects, even death in patients. And before advocating that type of treatment, I would like to know for a fact that we're truly helping patients.
Dr. Friedman says it would be unethical for him to conduct a Phase 3 clinical trial. Your reaction to that?
I would say it's within his moral and ethical responsibilities that if he is so right and so out front in this field, that he makes the rest of us come and see that and prove it and change the way the disease is being treated.
But Dr. Friedman's 2,000 patients don't need absolute proof, especially the ones who are sickest, like Taylor Black. Her type of cancer cannot be treated with monoclonal antibody therapy, so instead, she has had 2 brain surgeries and undergone multiple rounds of chemotherapy with 2 different drugs. While the treatment seemed to be slowing the growth of the tumor, Dr. Friedman added another weapon last April in hopes of destroying her cancer, high-beam radiation of Taylor's entire brain and spine. It has caused her to lose her hair.
I had long hair, and then it just started falling out in big clumps.
The ordeal has been intense and painful.
Some people say that to get through this, it's almost like you have to go to hell first.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you never reached a point where you said, I just can't take this
Oh
anymore.
yeah, I did. I just wanted to scream and cry, but I have to take it, you know? I just have to get through it.
And since she has been under Friedman's care, Taylor Black has been able to attend her senior prom and graduate from high school. Milestones that were once unimaginable to her older brothers and sisters and her mother, Pam.
What was her graduation day like for you?
Oh, for all of us, it was a thrill. It was wonderful to see her. She looked so well at graduation because I had my doubts that she would walk across that stage.
A month after graduation, Taylor Black and her family are back at Duke to see if the past 8 months of continual treatments have been able to stop her brain cancer from spreading. While Taylor waits for the results, Dr. Friedman reviews the latest scan and sees that the tumor is not going away.
I'm going to now have to talk to somebody who I've already been given a heads up from a mom is very convinced that the next step in life is college, not treatment. There's no question that you've got active tumor. That's for sure. That's the reason for the scan now. And you look like you're about to go into a wreck mode, but don't.
No, I'm not.
But good.
This is just my normal thing when I hear
Okay,
the news.
I know that. I wish the MRI was clean. It's not clean, but it doesn't change the direction we're going, what we want to accomplish.
So things are working, they're just not working totally.
Yeah, that is correct,
Right.
but the reality is it's got to work totally.
Dr. Friedman decides to put Taylor on yet another round of chemotherapy with a new drug called VP16, which is normally used to treat lung cancer.
You were prepared for what he said.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as good as you would have liked.
Yeah,
It's
no.
not
But it's not,
devastating
yeah.
bad.
No, we keep on the same path and keep going.
We're just in a battle. We're in a battle. She's the front line. That's it.
Okay.
Taylor Black and her family go back to their home in Florida, where she hopes to enroll in college while continuing her treatment. Meanwhile, John Orman has returned to Duke from New York for his 15th MRI.
You ever get used to it?
Psychologically, it's hard because it's not a matter of actually going into the tube anymore. It's a matter of what are they going to find.
At age 46, John Orman is the fourth generation of his family to be diagnosed with brain cancer. His mother died from the disease when she was only 36.
I think about the fact that my mother lived for 11 months after she had surgery, and I've been here for 18 months, and I'm going to be here a lot longer.
And after more than 2 years of intensive treatments, including surgery and monoclonal antibody therapy, John Orman's MRI scan is unchanged. That means he is still cancer-free.
And the films are fine. You know, that's the bottom line. It's exactly the same.
It is? It's exactly the same?
It's exactly the same.
Oh, great.
It's just not moved. It's just not moved.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Good.
So that's good stuff.
Yeah, that is. That's wonderful.
So this is basically good news.
This is great. This is a scan that shows no evidence of tumor, and exactly what's supposed to happen. So this is party time.
Yeah. Look at that grin.
Dr. Friedman is still trying to find a treatment that will work for Taylor Black, but he is losing that battle. It's been 3 months since her last checkup, and despite 2 surgeries, radiation, and 3 chemotherapy drugs, her cancer has spread into her spinal fluid. Doctors Henry and Alan Friedman called Taylor with the news. She's in her dorm room at a Florida college where she's just started her freshman year.
So listen, this is a crazy way to do this. I'm talking to a telephone.
I know, me too.
Okay, I'm looking at the scans, and what I see is that the area hasn't disappeared that we were worried about before, but it's gotten slightly larger.
Okay.
It didn't go away.
You must have thought about the possibility that you won't beat it.
Yeah, I have thought about that, definitely. It's a very real possibility, but everybody's got to die someday, and if I have to die, I have to die. I mean, I've come to grips with my mortality now. Nobody lives forever. If I go a little bit earlier than I thought I was going to go, then I do, but at least make every day count, you know?
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Henry Friedman decides to try one more thing, and Taylor agrees. One more surgery that has never been done before. Neurosurgeon Alan Friedman inserts a tube into Taylor's brain using computer images to pinpoint the exact location of her tumor. An experimental drug for spinal cancer called busulfane is then later injected directly into the tumor in hopes of killing it. But a week later, another MRI shows that the treatment of last resort is not working.
The tumor continues to grow through the therapy, okay?
Through this therapy that we're doing?
Yeah, and the more time that goes by without something working, the more concerned I am that anything is going to work. But if we don't find something sooner than later now, time's beginning to be a factor. And as much as I would like to have you here, I think that home is the right place to be.
Taylor Black went home, and 2 weeks later she died. Even so, her mother Pam is grateful for the care Taylor received from Henry Friedman.
What would you say to her?
Thanks for the year that we had with her, and thanks for trying those things, and thanks for giving her that hope.
So you don't think that Henry was in any way selling false hope?
Never. I don't think so. If your child was sick and you knew it was a very rare thing, and he said, well, I've got these things I can try, what would you do? You'd say, I'll try them. I'll try anything. Anything for one more good day with her. And we had good days. It was a good year.
And Henry Friedman has given John Orman many good days.
But I have just celebrated my 2nd year of survival.
He is healthy and working again as an actor and singer. And David Bailey, who was diagnosed with the most lethal type of brain tumor and given 6 months to live, he quit his corporate job and now makes his living as a musician.
And the doctor leaned over and said, you've got about 6 months. That was 6 years ago.
Today, he is cancer-free and tours the country full-time, singing about his battle against brain cancer.
You must feel pretty good about having played a role in the fact that he is still here.
David's a good friend and a walking inspiration to the world that you don't have to die with a brain tumor.
Despite its concerns about Dr. Henry Friedman's approach, the National Institutes of Health is giving the Duke University Brain Tumor Center $19 million this year to develop new treatments for brain cancer.